Dr. Donald Blake has traveled to India to lend his medical expertise in a war-torn region of the country. When the area he is in is bombarded with missile attacks, Blake runs for cover and changes into Thor to deal with the threat. Thor makes short work of the Chinese invaders, destroying their missiles and smashing up their tanks. With the humanitarian efforts' vehicles destroyed in the attack, Thor rigs the enemy tanks for their use to get their patients out of the region. Thor then goes back and forces the Chinese army back with a raging thunderstorm. When word of Thor's involvement reaches the communist Chinese leaders in Peking, China, they demand from their scientists to come up with a means to stop the Thunder God. Scientist Chen Lu steps up and offers his expertise in radiation to come up with a means of destroying Thor and crushing the United States and other democracies. Retiring to his private lab, Lu begins experimenting with bombarding himself with various doses of radiation and soon is transformed into the radioactive powerhouse and rechristens himself the Radioactive Man. He then appears before his superiors who decide to secretly transport him into America to attack the United States. Smuggled into U.S. waters by submarine, the Radioactive Man is launched by specially prepared torpedo into New York, where he begins his attack on the people there. He proves too powerful for local law enforcement and announces his challenge to Thor. The Thunder God, however, is stuck in surgery in his civilian guise of Donald Blake and has to finish an operation before he can act in his godly identity. Thor's powers prove ineffectual against the Radioactive Man, who uses his powers to hypnotize Thor. He then commands the Thunder God to throw his hammer away, and is furious when Thor throws it away really far. Seeking out the hammer for his own possession, the Radioactive Man leaves the hypnotized Thor unattended so that he is not around to see him revert back into Donald Blake after the 60-second time limit runs out. Like in the past, when Thor reverts back to Blake, any hypnosis he was under is broken. When the Radioactive Man returns, Don manages to send him off on a wild goose chase. Returning to his office, Blake builds a device that allows him to track the location of his hammer, and finds that it has landed at the bottom of the Hudson River. Recovering his hammer, Blake transforms into Thor once more and tracks down the Radioactive Man. Catching his foe off guard, Thor creates a tornado that flings the Radioactive Man back to China, where he crashes in the remote mountains and is seemingly destroyed in a nuclear explosion.